To have you all here. I believe Ms. Phillips, we can now hear Ms. Phillips.
Yay.
And we're so excited. So welcome. In the chat, there is a link to a survey. And so we would like for all of you to please click on that link at the end of the masterclass session and complete that survey for us. I'm Dr. Lonnie McCray. I'm Dean of Arts, Humanities, Social Science, and Education at Southern University at Shreveport. I am a part of the management team for this SUSLA and GSU Homecoming 2020 Artist Reunion. And I'm so excited to be a part of this. I'm excited that we are able to bring some of these wonderful artists to you, to our community. And then since we're using the Zoom and hopefully Facebook in just a minute, we will be getting this out to everyone who wants to view. And so our class tonight for 2020 is with our performing arts residency artist, Ms. Roshanda Spears. And as you can see, it is the history of SUSLA and its programming arts program. And we have two guests with us this evening, Mr. Henry Price, and we also have Ms. June Phillips, who will be presenting. So is there anyone, first we want to see if there is anyone who, please introduce yourself in the chat by putting your email there and then indicating what school you may be associated with. But we want to be sure we have your email and your name so that if we need to report to any instructors, if you are here, we want to do that. Or if you feel like just unmuting yourself and saying hello to the group. I am good with you doing that so we can hear and see you. I'm going to stop my screen share and we're doing a speaker view. So if anyone wants to say hello.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Spears.
Good evening, everybody.
Oh, good evening, Ms. Hester. Good to hear from you. So just remember, over the next several weeks, what we have is several masterclass. We have Ms. Spears is every Tuesday and Thursday evenings from 6 to 7:30. She and Eric Francis, the visual artist, are working at the same times. And so every week from now for the next 4 to 5 weeks, we have these master classes set up. And then on Wednesdays, our first session with Ms. Brenda Wimberly was last night. And so she would continue for the next 5 weeks every Wednesday. And then we have different artists on Mondays coming in and providing master classes for you. And I'll talk about a few of those later as they're coming up. And then what we have on October 23rd and October 24th, the 23rd is going to be our exhibition. That is our visual exhibition. And so that's going to be the beginning of it. And so that, what that entails is that there will be artists who are graduates or have attended Southern University Shreveport and or Grambling State University, and they have decided they want to participate in this homecoming event. They are sharing their artwork, they are shipping it here. There will be a huge exhibition / party. We're hoping, as we've moved into phase 3. So we're really hoping that we can be in art space when the time comes on October 23rd so that we can actually go through and visit with everyone and see the wonderful art that those who have graduated from our institutions have produced. And then on the 24th, we have our culminating performing arts performance. So those are individuals who are across the country again and local who have graduated from Southern Shreveport and GSU who are working with Ms. Spears to create a performing arts final piece for us, which will be on October 24th. So we are so looking forward to that. If any of you are artists and attended Grambling or Southern Shreveport and would like to be a part, we certainly want you to be a part of it. Put your name information in the chat and we will of course get in touch with you. as soon as we can to get you a part of that project. Anyone have any questions or concerns or anything before we begin? So I'll once again say thank you all for being here. I'm going to share our opening video with you. So what you saw there, those were some photos from the past at Southern Shreveport of artists working and at Grambling State University. And then of course, some current photos of Ms. Spears, of Eric Francis, our resident artist, of Ms. Wimberly. And so just kind of a montage of individuals who are local and who are working artists in our community that are making things so much better for us and giving us those things that we can listen to and see and smile at and make us feel good inside. I am very excited about tonight's masterclass. Ms. Spears works at Southern University Shreveport with us, but she is a multi-talented award-winning dance artist. Her name is Roshanda D. Spears. She has been moving to her own beat since the age of 5, when her structured dance career began in West African tap, jazz, ballet, and modern dance in Los Angeles, California. Roshanda has performed in various venues, including commercials, plays, musicals, and movies. She is a graduate of Grambling State University and served as dance professor at Southern University Shreveport for 9 years. She is the resident choreographer for Mahogany Ensemble Theater, dance instructor and choreographer for Shreveport Little Theater, and founding executive director of Shuffling Along Foundation and Performing Arts Scholarship Fund. And so before I turn things over to Ms. Spears, I just want you to know I'm really excited. It's always good for me to see Mr. Price because Mr. Price was my assistant principal, and I'm so glad that I only had to see him in the hallway. You know, I never had to go to his office for anything other than to say hello. And then Ms. June was my supervisor, so I'm very excited to have both of them with us this evening. So thank you for inviting them. Ms. Spears, and I will turn things over to you. Let me pull this up.
All righty. Good evening again, everyone, and welcome to the HBCU Homecoming 2020 SUSLA GSU Artist Reunion Zoom Masterclass Series. Tonight's workshop, History of SUSLA and its Performing Arts Programming. The series sponsors are the National Endowment of the Arts, AT&T, Shreveport Regional Arts Council, the City of Shreveport, the Carolyn W. and Charles T. Beard Family Foundation. Tonight's panelists are Professor June Phillips and Mr. Henry Price. Professor June Phillips retired from Southern University at Shreveport as a chairperson of the Humanities Division and as Associate Professor of English from 1968 to 2012. Professor Phillips has served on numerous boards, commissions, and organizations. Although retired, he continues as an adjunct when needed. Mr. Henry Price has a BS degree and MA degree in art education. He currently serves on numerous boards and is president of the board of directors of the Shreveport Regional Arts Council. Since 1995, he has worked as supervisor of art K through 12 for Caddo Parish Public Schools. Additionally, he is a visual artist who works primarily in acrylics and has been featured on exhibitions across the country. Let's give our panelists a warm welcome. You need to do some claps and some signals in your, click on them for your reactions. I am so glad to be here with you all. Yes, 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 yes. So let's start out with Professor June Phillips. Can you hear me, Ms. Phillips?
I think she's muted.
She's muted. Lonnie, do you think you can unmute June? There we are. Ms. Phillips, how are you? Can you hear me, June? Okay, while we're waiting on her, June is, can you hear me? Okay, I'm gonna move to you, Henry. This is just your introduction. You can go ahead and just tell us a little bit more about yourself, Mr. Price, and your work and your life's work.
Thank you very much, and thank you for this opportunity. When Lonnie was showing the video, I saw some pictures that I was in, and
Wow.
that was a very long time ago. So it brought back some very warm memories for me. In terms of what I do, it's very simple. I'm trying to leave it better than I found it. And with that, there are those who impacted my life, and therefore I don't really owe them. I owe those who come behind me to try and do some things to impact their lives in a positive way. And it's casting your bread on the water, and someone way downstream will hopefully benefit as a result of that. I've been involved with the arts for a very long time, from childhood. And I'll talk a little bit more about that kind of as we go on. But I would like to just, if I may, talking about SUSLA and what I refer to it as SUSBO, because when we started, it was Southern University Shreveport Bossier. And how that came about, I think, is important for individuals and some who are aware of how Southern University Shreveport came about, and others may not know, but as a result of Act 42 through the Louisiana legislature, that happened in May of 1964. And with that, the governor, who was Governor McKithen at the time, signed that act in June of 1964. And then it was September of 1967 that Southern University Shreveport actually opened for students. And I will say that in the registration process, construction was not completed at the time. And we had to register at Booker T. Washington High School before
Wow.
we were able to go to the actual classes on the campus itself. And our dean at the time was Dr. Walter Austin. So I have some very fond memories of that.
Wonderful. So you were there basically at the inception, is that correct?
I was one of the very first students to enroll at Southern University, and I'm still connected with a number of individuals who started along with us. And at the time, it was established as a 2-year junior commuters college for the Shreveport-Bossier area, so that individuals could attend and then after 2 years could transfer to a 4-year institution. And then, of course, later on, some of the other courses were added. And as a result of those courses, then we have associate degrees and that sort of thing that came about as a result of that. But during the early days, there are some stories that you will probably hear about a number of individuals who were very active in terms of the civil rights and what was actually going on at that time.
Dr. McCrae, have we made any?
Not yet. I don't believe so. I'm still working with it.
Okay, no problem. I thought she was on at one time. Okay, so then let's do this, Mr. Price. So when you came to SUSBO,
Mhm.
what did you major in, and what performing arts programming was available? And you can include the visual arts because I know you are a visual artist.
Well, I'd like to talk just a little bit about maybe what we generally think of, we did at that time, the humanities at SUSBO. So if I say SUSBO, that's my way of saying SUSLA for the younger people. But when we think about the humanities division, there were a number of individuals who were a part of that. Florice Hunt was in charge of the dance program there. Donald H. was in charge of the band. Madame Pichon was in charge of French. Bobby Wiggins was in charge of the choir. Roosevelt Daniels was in charge of the visual arts. And the visual arts component did not start. Now, keep in mind that the university opened in 1967. And it was a year later that the first art classes were offered. And that was with Roosevelt Daniels. And he has impacted numerous lives of young people who are still creating and producing artwork on an ongoing and regular basis.
Wonderful. So in that, did you initially become attracted to the visual arts program, or how did you get involved?
Well, yes, I was attracted to it, and I have been creating and producing art for many years as a child growing up. And there were some things that we were able to do at that time, did not know the technical terms for it. But my brother and I were creating art, and we were destroying things to determine how they were put together. And sometimes we could put them back together, and other times it was just more a matter of knowing how gears work and that sort of thing. But I did not have art in elementary, middle, nor high school.
Okay.
Although I was creating art. And it was only in my second year of college at SUSBO that I took my first official art course under Roosevelt Daniels. And this was an individual who was masterful in an array of different disciplines under the umbrella of the visual arts. And with that, the impact that he had on my life, and as I indicated, on the lives of a number of other people, he took us under his wing and taught the various processes. And one of the things that he said is, when you know it and you understand it, you have an obligation to be able to share what you know with other people. And that has stuck with me. And so much so that he spent what I call quality time with us. And I'm saying us meaning those art students, where we would actually go out and paint around the landscape. We also had what we would call paint night, where we spent the entire night in the building creating artwork. We had art festivals and that sort of thing. So the interest was there, but it was a matter of how to cultivate that. And he was very instrumental in helping us to cultivate the interest that we had.
That's wonderful, and that's very powerful for you have not had any formative training in art, and to get to SUSBO and receive such great teaching from Dr. Daniels. Dr. McCray, are we good for Ms. Phillips?
No, she was going to try to call back in.
Okay, it looks like I see a number here, so I didn't know if that was her.
She may be trying to.
I mean, it's already up, it's in, so, but the mic is off, so I'm not sure if she can unmute.
She was going to try to call back in.
Okay, gotcha. We'll keep moving, Mr. Price. Okay, so during that time, you said your second year, you
Yes.
literally started, being involved with the visual arts. What was the first thing you started creating, and did that help you and grow you and develop into making a decision about what you are doing now with your acrylics?
Well, it's kind of a multi-layered situation. Even though I had been creating art from the time that I was very young as a child, not having formative art training, to have someone who could share, show, and tell you how to do certain things, that was pretty amazing. And then it's like, well, okay, if you want to create this, what are the steps that are necessary? And to be there, so that he wanted each student to become the very best that they could be. And there were times when we created like murals for the university.
Mm.
And it's like, well, okay, everybody has a job to do. And collectively, if someone did not show up and you say, well, Terry is not here to work with me on this. He said, what you need to do is do your part.
There you go.
Don't worry about Terry. I will take care of Terry and in his absence, but you need to go and do the very best that you can do. You have an assignment. And therefore, you kind of get a little warm under the collar. And as a result of that, it kind of forces you to really go out and work. And then the next day is like, oh my goodness, you did pretty good. And it's like, well, I was upset because of what you said to me. And in creating those, one of the things that he said is, whatever I teach you as a student, when you leave, whether you go to Southern University, Baton Rouge, or some other place, when you're in a course, you don't have to say, we already know how to do that. He said, whatever your assignment is, you do it to the very best of your ability, And that is all that is required.
That's
And
so-
those kinds of things have actually stuck with me, since that time. One other thing that I think is important, not just as it relates to the visual arts at Susla, but the overall faculty and staff they were very nurturing. You know, a little nappy-headed country boy having to have a little job on the campus, but having people who would give you a sense of direction. And it's akin to saying that you have people along your road of life to give you a sense of direction. And not only give you a sense of direction, but to be able to say, A, that's not a good idea. You might want to rethink that. So that's having people placed at strategic points in your life. And those decisions can be life altering. And so for a kid not to have formal art training and then to go on to become the supervisor of art for a district the size of our school district, 44,000 students, to say, oh my goodness, you are impacting 44,000 students. Now, Roosevelt Daniels didn't know how that would play out, but I'm sure he would be very proud to know that the work that he did in instilling that work ethic and that desire to help and assist continues on. And when you think about where we are now as it relates to 1967 when we actually opened, and then to be able to look at the Southern University Museum of Art, for example, that opened in February of 2002. That, to me, there's that direct connection with some of the kinds of things that we were doing in 1967. Fast forward to 2002. So there were wonderful people, and there's still wonderful people working there, but wonderful people who were very nurturing and wanted to make sure that you succeeded and would not accept excuses. And to me, that's an important thing.
Yes. And that's why I believe that universities and colleges such as Susla and Grambling State University, very nurturing. They not only wanted to help you succeed and make sure you succeed, but they were going to do whatever they could in their power, whether you wanted to or not. So that is something I'm very appreciative of. But let's go back. Let's go back. So art, was that your only interest? Were you a part of any other clubs or organizations that dealt with performing, theater possibly, dance? Did you do any music?
You have to know your limitations. At the same time, I was involved with a theater program. Was involved with a number of productions while at Southern here, as well as the main campus, and working with other students and helping them to grow, and vice versa, them helping me to grow. It was very rewarding. And as I indicated early on, that I'm still connected with a number of individuals who were at Southern, not all of them in the art arena. Many of them have gone into other businesses and that sort of thing. And it's rewarding to know the impact that HBCUs have on individuals of color in particular. So when we talk about the need for HBCUs and the support that we need to give and provide as alumni or as individuals to be able to maintain HBCUs, that's critically important.
Dr. McCray.
All right. No, ma'am.
Can you hear me, June? She sounds like she has an echo. I can hear you.
Could you hear her?
Yeah, but Ms. Phillips?
Could you hear her? I thought we had it for a second, but maybe not.
And just so you know, Mr. Price, Ms. Hunt was supposed to be on with us. She couldn't do it. She found that she had a conflict, so she was out. So I hate that she could not be on with us, because I know she would have brought in a wealth of knowledge about the dance department and program. But I know June is very heavy in that area, as she is, because she was over the humanities department.
Right.
So hopefully we can get her on.
And with the dance troupe, you know, when we think about what was the goal or what was the mission or the purpose of the dance troupe at that time was to offer students the opportunity to engage in creative dance and composition, as well as an opportunity to perform. And to me, that's an important part.
So while you were still there, you're into your second year. And at that time, did a light bulb come on? Did you say, hey, you know, I love this thing called art? Did you decide then that that was something that you would continue on with, or did you come back to it?
No, I was deeply embedded in it from the time that I took that very first art course. And I have this kind of quest for knowledge. And when I say quest for knowledge, meaning wanting to know as many different things as possible. I have an interest in math, and that grew as a result of my high school homeroom teacher that I was with for 4 years. I have a love for drafting and architecture and that sort of thing. So, you know, I designed my own house and contracted that and all of that. And it's important for me to know how to do something. And sometimes I think once you, I don't want to say master it, once you know how it's done, then it's what is the next challenge? What is the next thing that you want to know? So interest in carpentry, interest in architecture, interested in theater. I have a minor in theater.
Oh,
A lot of people don't know that, so now they know. But
it's out. The cat is out the bag.
so it's out. But I think we are lifelong learners, or we should be trying to gain new information and new insight on an ongoing basis. For example, if I don't know how gears are going in one direction in relationship to gears going in a different direction and the interaction between the two, then I will take all of that apart to be able to see how those gears work together. Once I know how it's done, then it's like, well, okay, now I know. Then it's going on to something else. You know, if, for example, I make wine, and I have come to realize that I can make 5 gallons of wine for the same price that I can buy 1 bottle of wine. Now, once I found out how to do it and what was involved and all of that, then it's like, well, okay, I don't have to continue making it. I know how to do it in the event I decide that I want to do it again. So that quest for knowledge um, is really important to me. And one of the things that I've tried to instill with students is don't have just one thing that you're interested in. You've got to have a plan A, B, C, D, E, F, G, so that all too often we will sometimes say, well, I know what I want to do and that's it. And that's great, but at the same time, you need to have a backup plan. You know, and I say that to athletes quite often. And it's like saying, well, okay, what is it that you want to do that brings you joy? And what is it going to take for you to achieve that? And what I have a tendency to do with young people is I tend to ask a lot of questions. I don't give them a lot of answers. I give them a lot of questions that are designed to force them to think. For example, if a child says, I'm going to be a professional football player, then I have a series of questions. If a child says, I'm saying child, young person says, I'm going to be a professional basketball player. Okay, then I try to force them to think about, okay, how many professional athletes do you know in the state of Louisiana? And they start rattling off some names. I said, okay, let's cull this down. How many do you know from central Louisiana north? How many do you know from Caddo Parish? How many do you know from your school? So then we're starting to look at what are the odds. So it's higher order thinking that I'm trying to get them to do. And again, I didn't give them the answer. I tried to force them to think about what it is that you think you want to do. And I think that a part of that role came about as a result of the nurturing that I received
Yes.
at Susla.
Yes, yes, because we tend to do that. You know,
Yes.
I even find myself, even though, you know, sometimes I get upset with the students because they don't do what they're supposed to do all the time, but that's still that nurturing thing, you know, hey, listen, I get it, but what do we need to do so that you can get through this course? You know, put it back on them, you know, but tell me more about your theater. I'm interested to know about that because it seems like you keep trying to skim over that. Are you trying to skim over that, Mr. Price?
No, I wouldn't say skim over it. You know, I traveled with the group from Southern University, Baton Rouge, and we went to Lincoln University and several other places as a traveling group. I'm not trying to skirt over it. I think that there are times when hopefully we recognize areas that we need to improve. For example, I'm a country boy. I'm an old man now, but I was this country boy who realized that he did not speak well and therefore enrolled in speech classes, theater classes, drama classes, and you have to speak. And therefore, that being in those productions where you have to project and that sort of thing, I think those are things that have helped me along the way. I don't focus on it a lot. I just hope that what I say comes across with a degree of clarity.
And I appreciate you for that, Henry, because most students, you know, like you said, you know, you needed that.
Of course.
Most students know they need it and still won't enroll in a speech. You know, they try to get away. They have to take speech, of course. but they will try to get away from those things. So that's very interesting to know that, you know, at an early age, you knew that that was something that you needed to do to be successful, to add to your success.
Well, let me give you, Ro, an example. In growing up, and again, part of it is knowing when to and when not to. And to me, there's a degree of separation there. If I say that I am about to leave, that says, yes, I'm packing up my things. I'm about to walk out of the door. Now, listen at the difference between I'm about to leave and what I'm about to say. I'm finna go. Okay, what did I just say? I'm finna go. Then someone said, what the hell did he just say? Right. I'm finna go. I'm fixing to go. I'm about to leave. Now, what is appropriate in this particular setting?
That's correct.
And hopefully trying to help young people to understand when to and when not to. Because depending on the environment, depending on the circles that you're in, quite often that will dictate what and how it should be said.
And that is correct. And at this junction, Dr. McCray, we are going to go ahead and take our 5-minute break. And when we come back, hopefully we'll have June on so that she can give us a wealth of knowledge of the beginnings of the Performing Arts and Humanities programming at what was then SUSBO and is now Southern University at Shreveport.
Thank you, Roshanda. Thank you, Mr. Price. Yes, and we will take a 5-minute break. And if you have questions, please put those questions in the chat for Mr. Price, and we'll talk about those in about 5 minutes. Thank you.
it's Sam Barker here from The Motley Fool. Behind me.
All right, we are back. I'm so sad right now, but we will not have June on, Miss Phillips on, but we will do something pre-recorded with her and upload that video so you guys can hear some things that are truly important about the implementation of the performing arts programming at SUSBO and at Southern University at Shreveport. So we're back. You ready, Henry? Did you take a little break?
I'm a super senior citizen, so I thank you for allowing me a little break.
Okay, so let's jump into what were the sign of the times during the era that you were there.
Um, Dr. Leonard Barnes was named acting vice president of Southern University. And prior to that time, he worked with, I think, student services. And at that time, I had a lot of hair and dashikis and beads. And what was going on at that time was transitioning with the whole notion of integration. So therefore, we were marching downtown to bring about change. And there were a number of people who were students at SUSPO who were actively involved in and with the civil rights movement. And with that, we were marching downtown to bring about change, because there are some things that when I talk to young people, sometimes they look at me like, you're making this up.
Mm.
But with the Afro-American Society at SUSBO, there were a number of things that we were doing to bring about social change. And with that, part of marching downtown, looking at the lunch counters and those kinds of things. And if you went into a store as a person of color and you wanted to buy a hat, you had to know your size, because you could not try that hat on. I want to make sure that you understand that. And with that, if you wanted a pair of shoes, you had to know your size. And we were marching downtown to bring about change. And these were students at SUSPO. And of course, there were some things that we did at SUSPO. And Dr. Barnes called us in and he said, if you do it, you will not attend this university.
Wow.
And what he said essentially really made a difference in our lives, because he was absolutely right with what we were protesting against at that time. So when we talk about the climate, the MLK area where Southern University Shreveport is located, the main campus, there was no bus service. So you had to, if you were going downtown or you were going on Market to shop or going downtown, you had to ride a jitney. And a jitney comes from the German word Whitney. And the Whitney is like a cab. a taxi. So people had to ride a jitney to downtown or to shop on North Market. So when we talk about the climate, realizing that there was no bus service, how did people maneuver
Yes.
during that time? So the struggle is still going on today in some form or the other. I don't have, and I won't go into the details of some of what we are currently dealing with, but it's been an ongoing struggle and an ongoing fight to bring about social change, and to have been a small part of that with Shirley Roberson and some other people, where we were protesting for the betterment of our people. And there are some other things that were transpiring and trying to work. Didn't have the money, so I had to have a job or two. So when people think about things now, working on the campus between classes, working downtown in the evenings and at night at the Continental bus station, loading and unloading buses. So sometimes when you talk to young people, they kind of assume that where you are now is where you've always been.
Right.
And that's just not the case.
Right.
And when I say that there was no bus service, so if you were working downtown at night from 4 o'clock in the afternoons until midnight, how did you get back to the MLK area?
Right.
Either there was a jitney or the
Jitney.
jitney stopped running at a certain time.
Wow.
So when we talk about the climate, initially I said, you know, the goal is to try to leave it better than we found it. And I think that the growth of Southern University Shreveport from the time that it opened in 1967 until today, we've made a lot of progress. We've made a lot of progress, and I owe a great gratitude to those nurturing individuals who were there to give us a sense of direction. And I am, by training, an art teacher. Now, yeah, I don't know that I'm an artist. I think I'm a student of art. I don't know that I'm an artist, but
Okay.
I am a teacher. I taught art for probably 10 years before becoming an administrator, high school administrator. And with that, many of the things that I took to the classroom were the result of some of those values that individuals instill in me at SUSPO. Now, I love what I do. I like the interaction with young people. I enjoy seeing the light bulb go off or go on. And again, I said that I tend to ask a lot of questions, and those are designed to make them think. I had no inkling about going into administration. And the administration at the school where I was teaching art said, you need to get certified in administration. And my response under my breath was, no, you all need to leave me the hell alone and let me teach these children. And I finally said, Ro, why?
Right there, hold on one second, Henry. So right there, in your mind, you're saying, I'm not doing this, right? And you were not, you had already said you were not doing it. So
I just wanted to teach art.
right. So was it that you thought you just couldn't do it, or you just didn't want to?
I didn't want to do it. I enjoyed the time with the students. And I asked the question, I said, why are you all telling me this? And they said, we do not see students in the office from your classes. And I was like, You're not supposed to see them in the office from my classes. They need to be in my class so I can teach them art.
Right.
And they explained some things to me, and ultimately I went ahead and got the certification. And you know, we don't always know what's ultimately going to happen, but I became an assistant principal at the school where I was working at that time, and then later went to Caddo Magnet High School and was there for 15 years, and that's when Dr. McCrae was a student at Caddo Magnet High, and I was there for a long time. And I
Wow.
moved from that to central office in art administration. So we don't always know why things happen the way they do. But when you think about art teacher, assistant principal, art administration, it's a combination of what I had been trained to do, and it just was a combination of those things. So trying to be a good administrator says that you don't have to be mean, you have to have a few rules. And when you have a few rules, you just enforce those rules and things generally work out.
Right. That's good. Some good information. So I'm going to give you one last question, and then Dr. McCrae will move to you to see if we have any questions or comments in our chat. But tell us your opinion or advice to students as it relates to attending a 2-year, as SUSLA is, and then progressing and moving on to complete your bachelor's. Do you think that is a good idea for some students? And if so, talk to us about it.
I think it is for some students, maybe not all students, but I think that early on, when we talk about making good, sound, rational decisions, there are those who may graduate from high school and may not be mature enough to go away to school. And a 2-year institution may be the best thing for them to make that transition from high school into college. And by the time they become a 2nd-year student or the end of their 1st year, then the maturity level should be higher, and therefore moving to a larger institution may be better for them. One other thing about a 2-year institution, there are universities, and I've attended some where the teacher didn't know me. You know, I turned in my work along with 200 other students in that one class. SUSLA, the classes are smaller. There's direct connection and interaction with each student.
Yes.
The likelihood is that the professors know the students, have some kind of relationship with them. And that's a wonderful kind of experience for some young people to have, so that they're not just a number.
Yes.
They have a relationship with the professor, where if you don't show up for class at larger universities, it's kind of like, you don't show up, that's okay, I'm still getting my check.
Right.
Whereas with a place like SUSLA, if you don't show up today and you show up tomorrow, then the question is, well, Miss Davis, missed you on yesterday. Is there something going on that we need to discuss? And how it's worded, that's part of the nurturing.
Yes.
How it's worded is not to say, I want to know all of your business, But if something is going on that I need to be aware of, or need to be sensitive to, then I have established a connection and a relationship with you so that we can do that.
And that's good because a lot of our students need that,
Mm-hmm.
coming from some of these high schools. They need that. They need that extra nurturing and they need just the extra everything before, as you said, you go off to a larger institution of learning. Thank you so much, Mr. Price.
You're welcome.
Dr. McCray, do we have any questions, any comments?
Right now, I do not see any questions or comments in the chat, but we would love to have that happen. If you want to, just unmute yourself and ask your question, you can. I'll comment. Mr. Price, it's always a pleasure to see you, and so
Thank you.
For my time with you at Magnet High. And I understand your feelings about the administration part and being in the classroom, because that's where I've been. That's where I am.
Yes.
One of my instructors, unfortunately, had medical leave about a year ago for a semester, and I had to teach in the classroom instead of being online. And I'm telling you, it was the best time. It was so good that no one could bother me administration-wise because I was in the class.
Wonderful.
I can't talk to you right now. I have to teach, and then what really makes me feel good about it is that even now, a year later, some of those students still come and talk to me and they need my assistance. And, and I got to actually see them and talk to them and still do that today. So that's great for me on my end.
Great.
I do have a question for you though. In Caddo, since we're live on Facebook, I don't know if I should ask, but I want to ask. So they're still supporting the arts the way you want them to support the arts in Caddo schools, or is it still a struggle? Or is it a struggle to get the support you need as those push more towards STEM education and push more to sports, athletics, those types of things, and the arts seems to be a forgotten area?
Well, that's an excellent question, Dr. McCray. That's an excellent question. I will say that I've been art supervisor since 1995. And during that time frame, from the time that I started working in the system as an art teacher, and then, as you know, going into administration, we have only had 3 art supervisors in all of those years. Since 1972, I know that we have only had 3. Now, I share that with you to say that there's always been strong support for the arts in Caddo. And if you look at things around the country, historically, when there's a budgetary crunch, the arts, the enrichments are the first to go. The superintendents who we've had in Caddo have seen the importance of the arts and what they can do to change the lives of young people. I'm sure you're familiar with the Art Break Festival, an annual celebration of student art that we've been doing for 36 years. And with the pandemic, we've had to kind of make some adjustments on that. But I will say that the superintendent, the chief academic officer, and others have been very supportive of the Art Break Festival because it's an opportunity to showcase the arts, not just the visual arts, but the visual and performing arts in our district. We started out with Art Break just for Caddo Parish Public Schools. Fast forward, we expanded that to include public school, private schools, charter school, home school, virtual school, and the list goes on. because at some point we realized that parents will sometimes make some decisions for their children that may lead them outside of the circle of the arts. And that's not the child's fault. That's a decision that's made by the parents. So the superintendents that we've had, including the current superintendent, Dr. Gorey, and the chief academic officer, Mr. Burton, they have been very supportive of the arts across the board. Now, one of the things that we, with reference to Caddo and the Arts Council with SRAC, you know, we are pushing for STEAM, which includes that A for the arts. But from a budgetary standpoint, in Caddo, we have been very blessed to have a district, starting with the board and the superintendent and his cabinet, to really support the efforts that we've put into celebrating the arts and promoting the arts and teaching the arts. And we're talking about not just the visual arts, but performing arts that will include the music, the talented arts program, project talent, and the list kind of goes on. So, and that's an excellent question. And I think it's important that others know and realize that in Caddo, that the arts are alive and well.
Excellent. Thank you. Let me go back. Dr. McCray, I saw a comment that you put in the chat about Roosevelt Daniel and...
Yes, Ms. June wanted us to know that it was Roosevelt Daniels and Gerald Cotton who began the Festival of the Arts.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I cannot wait to get a hold of her. It's okay. This was good though. Harry, you had a wealth of knowledge. I'm so excited. I'm just energized.
I'm just old.
You're not old. You are not old. Are there any other comments that you would like to make, Henry, as it relates to SUSBO, SUSLA, and, you know, the future?
Thank you. And thank you all for doing this Zoom and to be able to talk about HBCUs and the importance of HBCUs and Grambling State University and SUSLA in particular. It's important that we take care of ourselves and not so much to depend on others, but when we see a need and that need is great, then we have an obligation to step up to the plate and try to do some things that will make a difference, that will impact the lives of our young people in a very positive way. You all hear the news, you all watch the news, whether it's national, international, national, or local. I don't have to tell you how critical it is that we embrace our young people and try and impress upon them the idea of unity,
Yes.
as opposed to separation. And the mere fact that we share more in common than we have that's different. So I applaud you all for the Shreveport Regional Arts Council, Grambling State University, SUSLA, for the effort that has gone into raising the level of consciousness about the universities and what we need to do in order to continue to move forward. So for that, I say thank you.
And you are welcome. And it's just my belief that, you know, the arts are our heartbeat. They're our heartbeat. And for a lot of us, that's how we learn, you know, and so it saddens me when those things are taken away from us. Because in my mind, that's kind of a guide and direction. You had no idea that you would be an administrator. But that
I just wanted to teach art.
Yeah, you just wanted to teach art, but that took you further because of your what? Your discipline, because the arts teach discipline.
Sure.
You know, and staying on track and getting it done. When Mr. Daniels told you, don't worry about his part, worry about your part. I'll deal with him.
Yeah.
That taught you something.
Sure it did.
that stayed with you.
And it has stayed with me. And with those kinds of things, it has given me an opportunity to travel pretty much all over the world. And, you know, to be invited, you said that I was trying to downplay the theater part of it.
Oh, I said you were trying to skip over it. You were trying to skip over it because at first you didn't say that you were in theater
Well,
in that way.
Well, the Museum of African American History and Culture, I had an opportunity to be a part of a documentary that we did on Clementine Hunter. And I was invited to be a panelist where the museum covered all of the expenses and that sort of thing for several days, to be able to go there and to be a part of it. And it is to say that the arts are important, and to be invited to be a part of that, you know, where I didn't have to say, well, okay, it's going to be 2 years before I can try to get a ticket and all of this, and to be treated royally, going there, not having to stand in a line, being able to engage in conversation and dialogue. You know, you're sitting on a stage and you're reflecting on where you came from. And with that, it's like, ooh, this little country boy is sitting on this stage in the Oprah Winfrey Theater.
There you go.
As opposed to where you started from. So Susla, Susbo has been a major part of that for me, and Southern University Baton Rouge as well.
Yes. So we are relevant. Just so people know, for those who are on Facebook Live and who are also on the Zoom, we are relevant. We will forever be relevant. But we need your support in keeping us that way. As he said, instead of trying to separate, we need to stick together. Dr. McCray, do you have any other comments or anything else you would like to add?
Yeah, just to wrap things up, thank you again, Mr. Price, for being with us. We appreciate you more than you'll ever know.
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Spears, for conducting this session. And I want to remind those who are watching or who will watch that next week, we have classes Monday through Thursday. And so Monday night at 6 o'clock, we have Professor Fred Irby. He will have a master class on the introduction to the life of a professional jazz musician. And then we will also have a master class with Sababi Bayak, the journey to becoming a professional artist. That is on Monday night at 6 o'clock. On Tuesday night, we have again, Ms. Spears will be here, and they will be going over the electronic portfolio part 2. This is a series with her, so you can build your performing arts biography with Ms. Spears. She's there to help. So that'll be at 6 o'clock on Tuesday. Visual arts workshop with Eric Francis at 6 o'clock on Tuesday as well. So again, remember, we have the performing arts and the visual arts. So we have those 2 tracks that you can choose from. Wednesday night, we have Miss Brenda Wimberly again. She will be discussing the story of the Negro spiritual. So you can join in for her on Wednesday night. And then Thursday night, again, we have, Miss Spears. She is going to be presenting on Why We Dance, the history of West African dance.
Yes.
And she'll have guests Felicia Spears and Luther Cox. And so those individuals will be presenting with her. And then you'll also have the visual arts workshop with Eric Francis again on painting, drawing, framing the subject. So all of these can be accessed by going to HBCU Artists with an S, homecoming.com, click on workshops, and then you just click on the link and it will take you into the Zoom. Again, if you're on Zoom with us, please fill out the survey in the chat. If you have any other final comments or questions, let's hear them now. Ms. Spears, any final comments from you?
No, this was wonderful. And I just so appreciate you, Mr. Price. I really, 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 really do. And June, if you can still hear me, I love you. And we're going to get you, June. We're going to record you. We're going to get this history down, girl. You hear me? We're going to get it down and we're going to upload it because it's important and we need to know about it. But thank you all again for tuning in. And again, until we meet again, good night.
All right, see you all next week, I hope. All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.